Committee on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs. It is Monday, March 22nd at 2:21 p.m. in conference room 325. First on the agenda, we have HR 110 urging the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to conduct a study to determine if and when the required Hawaiian blood quantum will be sufficiently diluted as to bar any new qualifying applicants for the Hawaiian Homelands program. First up to testify, we have William Ila for DHHL in opposition.
Aloha, Vice Chair Scott Matayoshi. We submit testimony in opposition of this resolution, and we'll stand on our testimony.
Thank you. Next up, we have SCHHA in opposition. Not present. All right, members, that's the only testifiers we have for today. Any questions? Rep. Ward.
Thank you. Mr. Ila, question. In a reso last week, your deputy noted that the wait list would be cleared within 183 years. How many Native Hawaiians at 50% blood quantum will be available in 182 years?
I don't know the answer to that because I can't comment on who's going to marry who in the next 3 or 4 generations. Representative Ward.
But you see the dilution of the quantum is fast upon the Hawaiian community, which with rapidity, or let's say the lack thereof, after 100 years and you've got 28,000 on the wait list, doesn't it seem inevitable that you're going to have, as time progresses, even less and less Hawaiians available for more and more land that hasn't been settled on? So why would you want not to know when, in effect, eligibility will have been negated and the land possibly could have cheat back to the state of Hawaii, and the Hawaiians will be denied the land that they were given 100 years ago? I think that's the spirit of the...
I understand your question, Rep. Ward. I think the first answer is, we, as pointed out in our testimony, we're focused on serving the beneficiaries that are on the wait list now, as well as those who could sign up for the wait list that have the blood quantum. And secondly, I would say that I don't know what the intent of Congress is going to be. So Congress, at some future date, seeing that blood quantum has been reduced, may decide that in order to get the lease or an original lease, that they would reduce the blood quantum issue as spelled out both in the Admissions Act and in the Hawaii State Constitution. Taking care of Native Hawaiians as promoted by Prince Kuhio is something that's embedded in both of those foundational documents to the state of Hawaii. So for the creation of the state of Hawaii. So I frankly don't see the lands reverting back to the state of Hawaii as you speak, because I do believe that the commitment for statehood is something that continues in perpetuity, and that the voters in 1958 agreed to this compact.
So, Mr. Ila, you would suggest then, as the Congress realizes that if, in effect, there's more land and Hawaiians waiting on the wait list, and there are not enough 50% Hawaiians, that they would then, in effect, change the act itself. And if that
is a possibility.
Okay, if that's what you said, why not get a leg up on this and get out ahead of it, saying, hey, guys, at 15 or 20 years, we're going to run out of Hawaiians? That's the whole spirit of the reso. To know ahead, to plan ahead, after what otherwise 100 years we have not been able to do that. And as intermarriage takes place in all groups, particularly the Hawaiian community, inevitably there will be no one eligible unless Congress acts. And this is a chance to get ahead of that. But thank you for your input, and thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Members,
Thank you.
If not, we're moving on to HCR 5, establishing a joint committee on judicial selection. We have one testifier today, Kobayashi Sugita and Goya Goda in support.
Aloha, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I have submitted written testimony, and I'll stand on my testimony including the report of the steering committee for this committee. I think this is an important matter, and we request that it be adopted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's all the testifiers. Members, any questions? Seeing none, moving on to HCR 63 and HR 52, urging the Commission to promote and advance civic education to conduct a comprehensive analysis of the feasibility and implications of lowering the voting age for the state and local elections from 18 to 16 years of age. First up, we have Vote 16 Hawaii in support.
Aloha. Can everyone hear me?
Yep, please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Aloha Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Matayoshi, and members of the JHA Committee. My name is Dyson Chi. I'm a resident of Alamana, and I'm testifying on behalf of the Vote 16 Hawaii Coalition in strong support of HCR 63. You have a written testimony which contains the various studies and statistics relating to lowering the voting age to 16, and we stand by written testimony. In addition, I'd like to share my personal experience as well. You know, I have to confess that I used to think that lowering the voting age was a terrible idea. The adults always told us that we lacked the mental capacity to make these decisions. And being the trusting person I was, I absorbed that thinking as my own for quite a while. Of course, throughout that process, I completely ignored the fact that 16, 17-year-olds can drive a vehicle, which could get someone killed, work, which contributes to our society's economy, and pay taxes, which are used by government officials who they can't vote for. Eventually, some of my better educated friends brought these points up to me and more. They really made me realize that lacking the mental capacity to vote was an inherent bias rather than a rational argument. After all, if mental capacity is if mental capacity really is the issue here, logic dictates that the age demographic that is most prone, for example, to dementia should be similarly banned from voting. And the University of Michigan and Duke University found that 37.4% of those aged 90 and older have dementia. That's more than 1/3 of the population. But regardless of their mental capacity, our kupuna should be allowed to continue to vote. Though they may not be able to work now, they are American citizens, and their past efforts are what the president is built upon. And in recognition of that, both I personally and Vote 16 Hawaii believes that our kupuna should have the right to vote. And along with them, 16 and 17-year-olds on whose shoulders the future will be built upon. So thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm happy to answer any questions as well. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you. And to the testifiers, we do have a 2-minute limit for your testimony, just to keep that under. Next up, we have National Youth Rights Association in support.
Aloha. So forgive me, this is the first time I've been to a meeting like this before, but my name is Chester Jersey. I represent the National Youth Rights Association, and I'm actually from California. So I was invited here by Dyson Chi. And so the reason I support lowering the voting age is because I believe that 16-year-olds are able to contribute to their society and also to their local economic areas. And so I believe the same thing applies to Hawaii. I also want to throw in some links in the chat, but I stand by my testimony, which I have already written submitted testimony last Friday. So I'm just throwing in here for review. I just want to say that I support everything that Dyson Chi had mentioned earlier. So I am in support of lowering the voting age. And I have done some work in support of lowering the voting age, and I believe even the Speaker Nancy Pelosi has gained recognition of this, and so that is part of my written submission to testimony. And also Representative Grace Meng from New York has also came up with HJ Resolution 23, which is to lower the voting age across the United States as a whole. And so I'm also throwing in my website for the National Youth Rights Association. So if anyone's interested in checking that out, please feel free to do so. And I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you. And mahalo.
Yeah, thank you. Next up, we have Common Cause Hawaii in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Sandy Ma for Common Cause Hawaii. We stand in support of HCR 63 and available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have another Vote 16 HI. Puali, are you there?
No.
Okay. Moving on to Our Revolution Hawaii in support.
Aloha, Chair. Sorry, my camera's not working. I'm having difficulties here, but my name is Dave Molnix. I'm representing the 7,000 members and supporters of Our Revolution statewide. Just a couple of quick points. This is just a resolution. It doesn't actually give 16-year-olds the rights to vote. And so getting the data and information is, I think, essential. I think when I was a teenager back in the 60s, the war in Vietnam was raging, and the voting age was 21. We were being drafted at age 18 to go into a war that we didn't support, to kill people and possibly being killed. And but we had no say in what was about to happen to us. We all got together at that time, started a movement, and got the voting age to be taken down to 18. And from that, we got into the polls and we stopped that war in Vietnam. Currently now we have a climate crisis that's affecting everyone on the planet, and 16-year-olds are just as now affected by what's going on, but they don't have the right to have a say in what's going on. It's politicians and folks much older than them. They're making decisions that are going to affect their lives, the rest of their lives. Just a note, Greta Thunberg, who started the international climate movement, was only 16 years old. The whole world now is talking about what this 16-year-old started. The U.S. climate movement here in the United States is also started by a 16-year-old. They registered over 6 million voters in this last election and got out the votes and were mainly responsible for getting Joe Biden elected. 16-year-olds do have the capacity and ability to know how to vote and be part of our democratic process. Thank you very much for your time.
Moving on to, we have a number of individuals in support, but two that have indicated they will be here today to testify. First up, we have Daniel Pruder.
Thank you, Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Matayoshi, and members of the committee. My name is Daniel Pruder. I'm a 16-year-old resident of Mo'ili'ili, and I am submitting testimony in support of HCR 63. I support lowering the voting age to 16 because as a person of that age, I believe myself and others of 16 and 17 years of age more than competent and capable of partaking in the vital democratic tradition and civic duty of voting. Many of us are already practicing civic engagement through our participation in political discourse and involvement in supporting our communities. We have voices that we'd like to be heard and considered, which we believe can best be achieved through the right to vote. If we are mature enough to develop and advocate for our own beliefs, we should be allowed to vote to ensure that we are represented well. Granting 16 and 17-year-olds the right to vote would make us feel as though our voices matter through encouraging good voting habits and spurring higher turnout for generations to come. I wouldn't be testifying before the committee today if I didn't believe I was ready to vote. And this youth-led movement only proves that all of us are ready for that massive responsibility. Thank you for your consideration, and I sincerely hope that you will pass HCR 63. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you. Last testifier on the agenda is Lucy Fagan.
Aloha, Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Matayoshi, and the committee members. My name is Lucy Fagan, and I'm a 17-year-old student living in Kaimaki. Today, I would like to voice my support for HCR 63. I see lowering the voting age as a great way to educate and involve youth in local decision-making. I've interacted with countless adults who know nothing about local government and the positions they vote on. By educating youth, we are creating students who will grow up and understand these roles and become quality voters. Voting is an important aspect of a healthy democracy, and expanding that right and building the habit is a great way to continue building the momentum we saw in the last election. We should continue to strive to increase voter turnout and allow communities to hold their elected officials accountable for the decisions they make on behalf of all community members. Personally, I've been engaged with legislation and politics since the age of 15. I've been able to grasp the concept of action like tracking legislation and submitting testimony. If me and my peers are able to do that, we are more than capable of being responsible voters. With further education in schools about local politics, being civically engaged would be even easier, and students would be even more equipped. My future and the future of all youth are on the line right now due to issues like climate change, and we should be given the responsibility and necessary tools to have a say in how Hawaii responds. Thank you for looking out and uplifting our voices.
Okay, thank you. We have one more testifier on HR 52, but it's the same testifier as HCR 63. David Mullinex, I'm assuming you're standing on your testimony for HR 52? Yeah, I take that silence as a yes.
Yes, I am. Sorry about that.
The testifier, do you have members, any questions? All right, seeing none, moving on to HCR 111, asserting that racism is a public health crisis and urging the state to commit to recognizing and addressing the resulting inequities. First up, we have, University of Hawaii will not be here. First up, we have Common Cause with comments.
Good afternoon again, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Sandy Ma for Common Cause. We stand in our written comments supporting the intent of this bill. Thank you. Intent of this resolution. And we're available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have YWCA Oahu in support.
Hi, this is Jen Wilbur with the YWCA Oahu. We will stand on our written testimony in strong support.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have LGBT Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii in support.
Good afternoon, Representatives. Michael Goyu on behalf of the LGBT Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. We stand in full support of this resolution, and thank you for hearing it. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you. We also have a number of organizations and individuals in support, but no one present to testify. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to HCR 154 and its companion HR 130, condemning all forms of anti-Asian sentiment as related to COVID-19 and urging greater investment in federal, state, and local resources to develop and support community-wide solutions. First up, we have Common Cause Hawaii in support.
Good afternoon again, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Sandy Ma for Common Cause Hawaii. We stand in support of HCR 154, HR 130. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have LGBT Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii in support.
Hello again, Michael Goyu, LGBT Caucus, the Democratic Party of Hawaii. We stand in full support of the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, and that's all the testifiers we have. Members, any questions? Seeing none, moving on to HCR 169, HR 143, requesting the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations to convene a working group to improve access to government services for immigrants and increase immigrant opportunities to make civic and economic contributions to the community. We have one testifier scheduled today, an individual, Allison Chu. Oh, I'm sorry. Allison Chu, is Allison Chu there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Hi.
That was for the HCR 154, HR 130. Did you have any comments on 130?
I did, yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. I'm Allison Chu, Miss Hawaii USA 2021. And currently, I am the only Asian American representative competing at Miss USA this year. So I feel a huge moral responsibility to be able to advocate and be a voice for the Asian American community, and I am in full support of you guys working towards denouncing Asian American hate crimes, and thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Allison? Sorry, I missed the companion bill or companion reso. All right, if not, first up to testify on HCR 169 is Hawaii Friends of Civil Rights in support. Yep, hi Amy, go ahead. You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you very much for hearing this resolution. We thank the legislature also for establishing the Office of Community Service in 1985. It consolidated a number of programs, including the State Immigrant Services Center. And so this resolution really asks for the Department of Labor and other stakeholders to look into the issues and come up with recommendations so that the Office of Community Service can meet its legislative mandate and mission to serve low-income individuals, including immigrants and refugees. In the recent years, hardly any resources are provided for immigrants and refugees. by the Office of Community Service. We are confident that the recommendations will improve access to government services for immigrants and increase immigrant opportunities to make civic and economic contributions to the community. We feel that this is a really good opportunity to make the office meet its legislative mandate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for the companion, HR 143, we have the Hawaii Coalition for Immigrant Rights in support.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members for this opportunity to testify on behalf of the Hawaii Coalition for Immigrant Rights in support of this resolution. Almost a fourth of Hawaii's working population is immigrant, and immigrants are essential workers, critical parts of the accommodation, food services, and healthcare industries. COVID-19 revealed gaps in services and opportunities for immigrants, and we support this resolution as an important step in our current chapter of moving forward for all of Hawaii. We stand on our written comments in strong support. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we're moving on to our last item, HCR 190. We have no testifiers for this matter, so we will recess for decision-making. Recess. Members, we will be voting on, first up, we have HR 110. Due to the opposition testimony by both the HHL and the Shaw, Vice Chair's recommendation is to defer this bill until a later time, or actually defer this bill indefinitely. Next up, we have HCR 5, establishing a joint committee on judicial selection. Vice Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Members, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, Chair with the vote.
There are 5 recommendations. Vice Chair votes aye. Representative Yama.
Aye.
Representative Kobayashi.
Aye.
Representative Christie. Aye. Representative Lowe.
Aye.
Representative McKelvey. Aye. Representative Nakamura. Excuse. Representative Takuti. Aye. Representative Todd. Aye. Representative Okioka.
Aye.
Representative Ward. Aye. Motion is passed.
Okay, thank you, members. Next up, we have HCR 63 and HR 52. Vice Chair has concerns about this, as discussed previously. Vice Chair's recommendation is to defer this, both measures indefinitely. Next up, we have HCR 111, asserting that racism is a public health crisis and urging the state to commit to recognizing and addressing the resulting inequities. Vice Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Members, any comments? Okay, seeing none, Chair with the vote.
HCR 111, Chair's recommendation is to pass unamended, noting the excused absence of Representative Nakamura. Are there any reservations? Chair, motion passes.
Okay, thank you, members. Next up, we have HCR 154 and HR 130. Chair's recommendation is to pass this as is. Members, any comments? Seeing none, Chair with the vote.
HCR 154, HR 130, Chair's recommendation pass unamended. Will excuse act to the Representative Nakamura. Any no's or reservations? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you, members. Next up, we have HCR 169 and HR 143. Vice Chair's recommendation is to pass this as is. Any comments? If not, Chair, as is.
Okay. HCR 169, HR 143, Chair's recommendations passed unamended. Willing to excuse absent the Representative Nakamura. Any no's or reservations? Chair, motion passes.
Okay, thank you, members. Last up, we have HCR 190. Vice Chair's recommendation, again, is to pass as is. Any comments? Seeing none, Chair, as is.
Okay, HCR 190, Chair's recommendation to pass as is. Willing to excuse absent the Representative Nakamura. Any no's or reservations? Your motion passes.
Okay, thank you, members. We are adjourned.